Welcome to a documentary full of facts and findings found by students at Camperdown Wildlife Centre. I am a student researching zoo animal behaviour and welfare, looking at how animals survive in the wild, how zoos mimic their natural habitats, and the laws, standards and rules required to run a zoo. This documentary will discuss a range of things from the history of zoos to focus studies on the red-bellied lemur and what they require in order to survive and thrive in captivity. The purpose of zoos in the beginning were purely for entertainment. From 1793, royal men and women would have what could best be described as animal museums with no thought to their welfare. A zoo once held at the Tower of London even accepted dogs and cats as an admission fee in order to feed the animals. Thankfully, times have changed since then, and zoos have progressed into focusing on education, research, conservation, and must conform to the 5 freedoms. The 5 freedoms was started by a committee in 1965 led by Professor Roger Bramble, who presented an 85-page report on the subject of welfare for livestock. The report stated that the animals should have the freedom to stand up, lie down, turn around, and groom themselves. These later became known as Bramble's 5 freedoms and have been implemented and adapted into many industries, including zoos. The 5 freedoms are freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury and disease, freedom to express natural behaviours, freedom from fear and distress. Since the 5 freedoms were implemented, zoos have made a huge leap from entertainment for coin to well-structured, highly professional organisations providing education, conservation and welfare for animals and humans around the world. By creating and implementing strict government legislations into animal organisations, the welfare of animals in captivity has greatly increased and is now the main priority for those within these organisations. Other legislations that must be followed are the Zoo Licensing Act 1981, the Bellied Directive, and Animal Welfare Act 2006. Zoos can also team up with optional organisations such as IAZA, who help zoos and aquariums in Europe and the Middle East with education, research and conservation, DEFRA, who cover environment, food and rural affairs. Their mission is to protect and enhance the environment with policies and actions that are key to sustainable national growth. And BIAZA, a professional body who represent the best zoos and aquariums in the UK. Zookeepers are animal professionals who are involved in managing and maintaining animals, their environment and welfare, as well as having many other roles and responsibilities, such as research, education, conservation, record keeping and housekeeping. Here you can see a list of key roles and responsibilities of a keeper. Welfare checks and record keeping are used to track the animal's health and overall welfare. Examples of records that may be kept by zoos are nutrient and diet requirements, enclosure safety and welfare, behaviour observations, husbandry requirements, breeding and any medical treatments. Systems used for this record keeping are ZIMS, EEP and ESBs. The red-bellied lemur is a herbivorous primate who originate from Madagascar. Their natural habitat is deep within the rainforest, where they spend their time travelling high in the trees, foraging for food, caring for young and looking out for predators. Their diet consists of fruit, vegetables, flowers and nectar. They require a lot of energy to obtain their food. Like many lemurs in the wild, they must swing and climb through the tall trees of the Madagascar rainforest and search for food consistently throughout the day until they are as full as possible. They will then rest for several hours before waking in the middle of the night to forage once again. When in captivity, it is important that keepers mimic the species' natural environment as much as they can. The lemur's enclosure is enriched with trees, plants and foliage to mimic their natural surroundings. Ropes and platforms are also present to encourage exercise and natural behaviours. Zookeepers have a diet record of every animal housed, detailing dietary needs, methods, and frequency. Keepers implement a variety of food, such as celery, sweet potato, and apple, in different areas of the enclosure, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, making sure to keep their food away from where they usually sleep to encourage active foraging behaviours like they would in the wild. The reason maintaining welfare is the most important role of keepers is if the animal's welfare needs are not met, they can suffer in many ways. Here you can see indicators of what is considered good welfare practices and poor welfare practices. Keepers and other zoo staff follow strict legislations and standards to ensure the best possible care, health and welfare for the animals. Failure to do so can result in uncharacteristic behaviours. Uncharacteristic behaviours are usually caused by unsuitable enclosures, little to no enrichment, lack of food and water, poor diet or underlying health issues. Also, if the species is naturally social in the wild and has no companion when in captivity, this can cause stress, boredom, depression, and would display uncharacteristic behaviours. To prevent these behaviours and ensure the welfare of the animals, the methods below are implemented by staff. Doing so, along with following the 5 freedoms as well as other legislation, prevents uncharacteristic behaviours from occurring. Examples of uncharacteristic behaviours displayed in wolves could be pacing, salivating, aggression, depression, and lethargy. Examples of uncharacteristic behaviours displayed in red-bellied lemurs could be rocking, teeth scraping, repetitive regurgitation, or self-inflicted injuries. Hand rearing is a method used by keepers to provide care for an infant animal until it is fit enough to be released into the wild or into captivity. Reasons for an animal needing to be hand reared might be an infant has been rejected by their mother, has been orphaned, needs medical treatment, or the infant has come into danger. Hand rearing is usually avoided by keepers as it can cause stress to the animal and leave them with permanent social or behavioural incompetences. It can also result in reintegration issues, rejection from the pack, animal too comfortable around humans or dependent on humans, and other animals in that enclosure could start to copy them and display unnatural, uncharacteristic behaviours. For reasons such as these, hand rearing is usually avoided unless absolutely necessary. In order to collect data for analysis and research, an ethogram is used to record the behaviours, dates, times, and even the weather at time of observation, as this is a factor that can alter animals' behaviours. The ethogram you see here was recorded before the enrichment was implemented. It showed that the lemurs enjoyed resting quite a lot, lounging around and only displaying short bursts of active behaviour. Welfare sheets are kept and regularly updated to ensure each enclosure is sufficient in providing the animals what they need in order to maintain optimum welfare, meaning the animals are in good physical health, stimulated both mentally and socially. Here's an example of a welfare sheet that I created to check the welfare of the red-bellied lemurs. The welfare sheet confirmed that the keepers at Camperdown do a great job in maintaining the cleanliness and safety of the enclosures, as well as making sure the animals are provided with the appropriate environment, diet and entertainment, resulting in happy, healthy animals. The red-bellies have an outside enclosure full of trees, branches, platforms and ropes at different levels for exercise and entertainment purposes. They have an inside enclosure providing them a safe, warm space protected from weather conditions and where they can be out of sight from public view when they require some me time. The only thing lacking in the sheet was a proper form of enrichment, which I knew there were plans for and can be seen later on in this documentary. After thoroughly observing and studying the lemurs, I knew I wanted to implement something into the enclosure that encouraged more active behaviours. In the wild, lemurs have to work hard to obtain their food, climbing and swinging through trees and using all their senses to locate it. This is the behaviour I hoped to see after the enrichment was implemented. My teammate and I brainstormed to come up with what we thought would work. Here you can see a rough sketch of our idea. A 2-in-1 enrichment involving a climbing wall and hanging feeders. We hoped that this kind of enrichment would result in more activity from the lemurs and give them a new and exciting way of foraging. The staff at Camperdown provided us with part of a climbing wall that was going spare, and I altered small animal entertainment balls found in pet stores into hanging feeders by creating small holes for inquisitive lemur hands and attaching rope to suspend them at different levels of the enclosure. Once implemented, we were ready to record behaviours for a post-enrichment ethogram. Through our observations and analysis, our hypothesis was that the red-bellied lemurs should display more climbing and foraging behaviours with the implement of a climbing wall and hanging feeder enrichment. Thankfully, after calculating the data, our conclusion was as follows. The implement of the enrichment revealed a decrease in resting from 7 number of occurrences before enrichment to 2 occurrences after enrichment. It also revealed a significant increase in climbing from 6 number of occurrences before enrichment to 16 after enrichment. This showed a great result and that the enrichment achieved our goal in encouraging the red bellies to actively seek out their food and get them more active. The experience at Camperdown was incredibly interesting, engaging, and left me with a huge admiration for how hard all of the staff work to protect the species of our planet. I am proud to be around at a time where animals are seen as much more than just entertainment, and this will only continue to improve and develop through future generations.